Mr. Knapp.
Okay.
If my numbers are right anyhow. In the last several weeks, there's been a lot of discussion about using rainy day funds for critical state programs. What are your thoughts on that? In other words, how should we use rainy day funds?
Another very, very wide question. I would touch on that. I would say budget decreases need to be considered so we can increase the rainy day funds. If it comes to a critical situation regarding water in the state, although that's not something necessarily that money will fix, we definitely would have to do that to save the farmers and agriculture in eastern Idaho. But I would try to avoid as much as possible taking from the rainy day fund if, and this would be future years, if we can reduce the budget to grow the rainy day fund and not need some of that at that point. But I would definitely consider it for critical situations like what I think this summer is going to bring.
This was a hard year at the legislature as far as budget goes. We were short on funds. So we did have to make a lot of reductions in our budget. It was pretty tough. It was a hard one to get through this year. What we did do, we worked on not using our general fund or looking at the rainy day fund to fund some programs that had been cut with the budget cuts that had happened last fall with the governor's cuts. One of them was called the ACT program. We worked to get some funds from our opioid settlement monies and from our Millennium Fund monies that are tobacco settlement funds. We worked to get those funds to be able to pay for that program going forward. So looking at other different funding pots that we have in the state is pretty important. And not dipping into our rainy day funds at this point was something that was on everybody's minds this year. And so that's what we did.
Ongoing spending should match revenue. It's that simple. So, if ongoing spending and revenue do not match, and we subsidize ongoing spending with rainy day funds, pretty soon we find ourselves in the same situation that people in Washington are in, where they had no rainy day funds, the economy was bad, and they passed a 9% sales tax up from nothing. Can you believe that? I would hope that we would be wise enough here in Idaho to save rainy day funds for true emergencies and trim our ongoing spending to match our revenue.
So this last session, I was one of those that fought pretty hard against JFAC for what I consider to be prioritizations that didn't line up with what I agree with. As a financial planner, I sit with clients. We talk about budgets. We always discuss that the state should budget like we budget in our homes. So how do we do that? We look at the revenue coming in. We look at the expenses we have. We allocate the money we have, and at the end of the month, we hope we have something left over. And usually, part of that budgeting process is setting some money aside for emergencies. We've been doing that in the state of Idaho for years, to the tune of $1.3 billion. That's how much we have in our reserve and stabilization funds. Then we left $230 million in what we call the bottom line. So imagine again, you're budgeting in your home. You go through and you say, we're going to leave a little bit left over at the end of the month, and we have thousands of dollars in savings. While at the same time you have a cluster of emergencies. The water heater breaks, the roof needs fixed, the transmission just blew. All these one-time issues that you couldn't control that need money now. That's what we were faced with. And instead of dipping into those funds to be able to cover those expenses, we cut very valuable programs. And I did not agree with it, and it's not how I would have done things. So I think we should have used our stabilizer funds, our budget stabilization funds, because that's what they're for, is to stabilize our budget. And we didn't do that, and instead a lot of people are getting hurt, a lot.